Hello everyone, welcome to the Ranting Shop. It's me, Melissa, and this is the finale of Ready to Love, you guys, and we're gonna get into things. However, things are gonna be a little bit different this time. As opposed to reviewing every single thing that I saw on this episode, what I will be doing is a couple analysis and my thoughts on everything, including the final choices. So it's more so of an analysis as opposed to a review of the show. So let's get into things. So I wrote my notes. Let's get the notes. Okay, so episode 12, season finale, an analysis of the couples. We have Sabrina and Walter. Now, there always seemed to be something missing from their connection. And I think what that was there was a lack of interest from Walter. And when I say interest, I mean a genuine interest. There was a lack there. He just seemed disinterested in Sabrina the entire time. I don't know who he thought he was fooling because his words and his actions did not align, even behind the scenes. Because we've heard her say plenty of times that he barely reaches out to me, he barely speaks to me, I have to reach out to them, and so on and so forth. Whilst meeting his family, something stuck out to me, and that was they mentioned Sabrina was not typically his type. I'm wondering if that had to do with her age, her look, her vibe, or what. I'm not quite understanding what they were referring to, because the alleged ex said the opposite thing. She actually said Sabrina matched his type. So someone is not being honest, and I'd have to guess it's the alleged ex. I'm thinking at this moment, does that ex really even know Walter, or was she just saying things that she thinks Walter wanted her to say in that moment? Okay, because I don't think she knew or knows Walter very well. So I said, if that even was his ex, I'm inclined to believe that his family knows him better. So perhaps Sabrina is not his typical type, but I don't know in what regard. I'm gonna say in regards to age. That's not the type of woman he'd normally go for. So Sabrina always knew that Walter wasn't the one and kept on looking for outward validation for her doubts, but never got it. And I noticed that particularly in this episode, when actually I believe it was the last episode when he was speaking to her family member. And she was basically wanting the family member to tell me something bad about him, because I already have these negative feelings about him that I want people to outwardly validate. And it seemed like she never got that validation from anybody else. So I think this process forced her to look into herself and look for the answers within. Something she felt like she was incapable of doing. Because remember, she said, I haven't always made the best choices when it comes to mates. So I feel like a lot of the time she went into the process doubting her ability to choose wisely. But she could have done so all along. At the end, Walter chose her in a guise of what to me seemed like superficial fluff, disguised as a genuine heartfelt speech. And she saw right through it, because she realized that he is a charmer, but there's nothing beyond that. And she didn't accept it. I think we are all happy that Sabrina came to trust herself and know her worth. I think essentially Walter's idea was for them to pick each other just to have a nice visual ending. It was never because he saw long term with her. I'm just happy that she cut it off, because it was foolery. Just based on Walter's response, oh, I didn't see this coming, maybe we could have still chosen each other and been friends. I think all Walter wanted was a nice bow tie for the end of the show. And Sabrina wasn't having it, because in her mind, she wants this for real. She doesn't want to act like she's having a happy ending when she knows very well that that's not gonna be the case. Like, she really wants it, and I don't think Walter really wanted it at all. The last couple of episodes, he seemed so disinterested. Like, every time he spoke, it just seemed like he was very drained. He seemed like he was tired. He seemed like he didn't want to be there. He seemed like he was over the process. And I truly believe he was, but he did not want it to end any other way other than like a seemingly happy ending. But that was not gonna be the reality. So why lie? Why fake it? You know? Now, we're gonna move on. Unless we have anything else to say about Walter and Sabrina. Visually, they do look good. They match each other like exactly. But the interest on Walter's part, it just wasn't there. You know, and that is a case where something might look really good visually, but just not work, because there's more to a relationship than visually matching. You know, there has to be the lifestyle, the fundamental beliefs have to align as well. All right, then we go to Phil and Sydney. I noticed that during this entire process, there was a noticeable change in Phil. He started looking defeated and sloppy, especially towards the end. That shallow incident absolutely had a huge effect on him. I'm happy that during Sydney's talk with Phil, she was empathetic but listened and tried her best to assess the situation in a non-biased manner and trusted her gut that his intention was never to hurt Shiloh. I want you guys to notice how she only highlighted the physical incident. Shiloh, I'm referring to Shiloh. That's why many of us were mad at Shiloh. You say he was intending to emotionally hurt you, but I'm pretty sure it's because you knew you were being rejected. Don't try to make the reason you're upset be because he picked you up. Don't try to make the reason you're upset be because he picked you up, because that wasn't it, and it's actually very disgusting. Case in point, when they spoke to Tommy, she said if he had given her an answer, the arguments wouldn't have happened. So clearly the issue was with his response or lack thereof. I'm happy that in the end, they chose each other because clearly she wasn't into Frank like that. It was very obvious who she wanted to go with. I don't think they'll last, but at least it was a seemingly happy conclusion on the show. And I believe I'm going to do a separate video addressing what we've seen thus far of the reunion and give my little predictions as far as what I think is going on. So now we're going to go over to Moomen and Frank. We know that this couple is not going to last very long, and previews are proving this assumption. Something is just off about them. I didn't see a genuine connection with either of them. It felt like they settled for each other. The only thing connecting them was their African roots. Beyond that, they lead completely different lives. The niece claimed that Frank was perfect. That in itself is a red flag. It's clear that he uses words to charm others, and it's easy to fall for the fluff when you're not on guard. I feel like she wanted so much to be chosen and for this process to work that I don't think she really assessed everything realistically and how it would play out. I didn't really care for their connection or love story, and I'm not surprised if it's ended already. It wasn't real to me. And based on the previews we're gonna see of the reunion, it looks like he didn't really hold up to his side of the bargain. But am I surprised by it? Absolutely not. Then we have Aisha and Dante. There appeared to be a disconnect as far as how they view male and female roles in the family. Aisha is more traditional, and I believe that Dante isn't. His cousins were essentially vocalizing his stance, which is a 50-50 household. They mentioned their mom doing what was considered masculine roles and teaching them how to do them. I don't think that's something they've spoken on, but it can be what causes an early end to their union because it's important. It is a fundamental thing that is either gonna cause a lot of conflict, or they're gonna have to decide whether they would like to compromise and meet each other halfway. For me, because they've not had that conversation, and that is a very important conversation. How do you see your role as a man in the relationship? How do you see my role as the woman, the feminine in this relationship? If they've not had this conversation, it seems that their union is comprised of a lot of physical attraction and perhaps some personality traits that maybe Dante likes about Aisha, maybe Aisha likes about Dante. But real honest conversation about how they'd work, realistically speaking, does not seem to have been a conversation that they've had. At least I didn't really see it. I'm happy they chose each other, but I don't think it will last unless she compromises her traditional values and also compromises financially for a 50-50 household. Because remember, Dante has 3 kids. A lot of the money is going to be going to his children and into 3 different households, and she's essentially having to decide whether she wants to contribute to that or not. A lot of women wouldn't. At least I didn't really see it. Yes, I'm happy they chose each other. I really do. But I don't think it's gonna last. The show framed their storyline as a victory, evil over good, and that's why we want them to work. I do believe that is essentially why we want Dante and Aisha to work. It's because they framed it as Miss Zadia being the bad girl and her not getting the guy, but Aisha being the good girl and she got the guy. So they kind of did a similar thing with Liz and Kyra, where Kyra was portrayed as the bad girl, the mean girl, whereas Liz was portrayed as the good church girl. And of course, everyone is rooting for the good church girl to get the guy, and she did. And her subscriber count skyrocketed, and everybody became so interested and so possessive and so defensive of Liz and Jason's relationship, even though anyone with common sense knew that it wasn't gonna last. Anybody who is rooted in reality knew it wasn't gonna last, but because they framed it as the good girl gets the guy, that's why we were rooting for them so much. And they did a very similar thing with Aisha and Zadia and Dante. They made Zadia become this. They turned Zadia in. Not that Zadia didn't do things that made it easy for them to portray her in that way, but she was kind of portrayed as the evil character, the bad girl, the rude girl, the disrespectful girl, the mean girl, right? And Aisha was portrayed as the good woman, nice woman, very rational thinking, just a lovely person. And so everyone was rooting for Aisha and Dante to make it, just so that they could say Aisha won, and so because of that, I feel like people were rooting so much for Aisha. A lot of people love Aisha. They love the New York accent, they love her realness, they loved her vulnerability, and so on. And so she's clearly the Liz of this season. She is clearly the Liz of this season. All right. What can I say about everything? I don't think any of these couples are gonna be long lasting, but with social experiments like these, they're obviously going to have a limited amount of contestants. And because there's a limited amount of contestants, the choices are limited. And so that is why it's very rare for people to find their person on TV, because the choices are so limited, and a lot of people were saying that they didn't understand why Walter lasted so long, and they believed that it was for Sabrina because they needed somebody there for Sabrina to be there. because they wanted to, I suppose, maintain the image of grown, sexy love, a grown and sexy love story, because that's essentially what Ready to Love tries to do. Like regular dating shows like The Bachelorette, The Bachelor, something like Too Hot to Handle, something like MTV shows like Love Island, these shows are catered for a younger audience and it's predominantly white. Whereas Ready to Love is the counter to that, in that their demographic is older black singles. And when I say older, I mean over 30 something years old. So in that case, that made a lot of people like very interested in the show, because it's very rare to find a dating show for older people. And so to maintain the image of grown sexy love, they had to keep grown sexy people. And Sabrina is grown and sexy, Walter is grown and sexy. So I think they kept them for the visual of it, but we knew that their relationship was not gonna work. Again, we are so happy that Sabrina did not choose Walter, because Walter wasn't interested in Sabrina. That's just what it is. And fundamentally, they don't align. She doesn't want kids and Walter does. That is a big point of contention. That is something that nobody can really get past. It's either you want kids or you don't want any. And if one wants and one doesn't want, it doesn't make sense to even go there, That is one of the reasons why she decided she didn't want anything to do with Sean. So we were all baffled as to why Walter was able to stay, but Sean wasn't, or why Sean was eliminated, but Walter wasn't. I'm going to talk about the reunion separately, as I said before, but a lot of them did lives. I saw lives from Sydney. I think I saw live from Aisha. I think I saw, so many people did, separate lives. Sydney was talking about herself and the show, and she and Frank seem to be good friends still. I'm not sure if she and Phil are still together. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if they're not. I was just saying to myself, I would really have liked if they would at least try for a year or something to see if it is really gonna work. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't, as opposed to going out for a couple of months and then deciding, okay, I don't want this. It would make the show more real, But anyway, they're gonna go over to Miami next. And if the DMV was this bad, I can only imagine Miami is gonna be 100 times worse, because people were like, oh, the DMV, people are only here to boost their careers. Everybody's fake. Nobody's really looking for love. And it kind of translated into the show. And then they want to move on to Miami, and Miami is equally or even more so as superficial, and nobody's really looking for love. Everybody's looking for a come up though. Everybody wants to be famous, whether it be Instagram, whatever it might be. So I'm very skeptical if they do move to Miami, how successful that would be. I think it's gonna be a shitstorm, to be honest, but it would be interesting. So anyways, you guys, that's all I really have for this particular episode. Did I mention that the only couple that didn't that didn't end up happily choosing each other was Sabrina and Walter? Everybody else chose each other. All right. What can I say, you guys? It was a very lackluster season. Nothing was really juicy. Nothing was really all that to really speak on. A little bit disappointed, because people were saying, oh, you guys are gonna see, it's gonna be hot, it's gonna be amazing. I'm still here waiting for the drama. That Shiloh and Phil thing, that was nothing. I'm still waiting for the drama, you guys. Hopefully it's gonna be in the reunion. I'm not sure. We're gonna assess it to see what happens. What can I see? Yeah, that's it, you guys. It was lovely having you guys listening to me and my reviews. I love my supporters, my subscribers. I really do appreciate you guys. I appreciate your feedback. And let's have a prosperous 2022. Like and subscribe and stay tuned for my next review, which is gonna be about the reunion. Can't wait to talk to you guys. See you next time. Bye.